The first blast took his breath before it took his flesh. It came like the collapse of a mountain, a roar compressed into heat and force. Aaron did not scream because the sound was ripped from him. He had been running when it happened, boots sliding on blackened stone, arms burning with the weight of the child he carried. The dragonling was no bigger than a human toddler, all ember scales and folded wings, its heartbeat frantic against his chest. Behind them, the sky split open. 12 elder cannons, mounted along the obsidian ridge, fired as one, dragonfire refined into weaponized judgment. The conclave had decided. No witnesses, no survivors, no mercy. Aaron felt the first blast tear through his back like molten glass. The impact hurled him forward, yet his arms tightened instead of loosening. He rolled, turning his body so the child was beneath him, shielded by bone and muscle and stubborn will. The stone scorched his skin. The air itself seemed to burn. His mind screamed one command over and over. Do not drop her. He did not know her name. He only knew she had crawled from the wreckage of a shattered broodship, crying not in fear but in confusion. He had seen the hunters circling, elite drakes in war-formed bodies. And something in him had broken cleanly and quietly. The second blast struck before he could rise. It caved his left shoulder inward, sent nerves shrieking. Aaron tasted blood and ash. Still, he did not let go. The dragon child whimpered, a sound like sparks dying in wet stone. Her claws clutched his torn jacket. She did not understand betrayal yet. Only cold and noise and pain. Aaron crawled. Each movement felt borrowed. The ground ahead sloped downward toward the ruins of an ancient city. If he could reach the collapsed arches, the cannons would lose their line of sight. The third blast missed by inches. The shockwave flung debris like knives. One shard lodged in his thigh. Another grazed his jaw. He laughed then, a broken sound. Not because it was funny, but because he realized something simple and terrifying. They were not aiming carefully. They were erasing the area. The fourth blast struck the ground beside him. The stone vaporized. Aaron was thrown into the air. For a heartbeat, he and the child were weightless. He twisted Medea, instinct overriding agony. His back took the impact when they landed. The dragonling's head was cradled against his chest, protected by his chin and collarbone. Bones cracked. Something ruptured inside him. His vision went white at the edges. He could have stopped then. No one would have blamed him. No one would have known. The fifth blast arrived like judgment. It burned across his legs, stripping cloth and skin alike. Aaron screamed this time. But he crawled again, fingers clawing through rubble. He could hear wings now. Not the cannons alone, but the descent of something far worse. Elite dragon women did not fight from afar. They descended to confirm death, to look their enemies in the eyes. The sixth blast clipped him from behind. It tore away part of his back. The pain was distant now, like thunder heard underwater. Aaron's thoughts slowed. Memories drifted in, his mother's voice, the smell of rain on metal roofs, a promise he had once made to himself to matter somehow. The seventh blast struck the archway ahead. Stone collapsed inward. Dust filled the air. And suddenly there was shadow. He rolled into the ruin just as the eighth blast struck the entrance. The arch sealed behind him in a cascade of molten rock. For a moment there was silence. The kind that rings. Aaron collapsed onto his side. His arms still wrapped around the child. He checked her frantically, hands shaking. She was crying softly, but her scales were unbroken. Her wings unburned. He exhaled. Or tried to. The ninth blast penetrated the ruin. Heat surged through the cracks. Aaron curled around the child, becoming a wall of flesh and will. He could feel his body failing, systems shutting down one by one. But still he whispered, over and over, words without meaning but heavy with intent. The 10th blast did not hit him directly. Instead, it collapsed the ceiling further inside. Stone crushed his leg completely. He no longer felt it. The dragon child's cries grew weaker. Not from injury, but from exhaustion. Aaron pressed his forehead to hers. Stay awake, little spark. Please stay awake. The 11th blast came with a different sound. Not distant. Close. The ruin shook violently. Something massive landed above. Stone groaned under enormous weight. He knew then. The cannons had finished their work. Now the elite had come. Aaron smiled, blood filling his mouth. They would find him alive. And that would be enough. The 12th blast was not fire. It was impact. The ceiling collapsed entirely. Darkness swallowed everything. The pain ended. Or so he thought. When Aaron woke, the world was quiet. Not the ringing silence of ruin, but the soft hush of fabric and controlled breath. He tried to move and failed. His body felt distant, heavy, wrapped. Warmth surrounded him. Not the burning heat of dragon fire, but something steady, almost gentle. He opened his eyes slowly. Light filtered through crimson drapes. The ceiling above was carved stone etched with ancient sigils. This was not a battlefield. He turned his head with effort and froze. Beside him lay a dragon woman. She was fully grown, unmistakably elite. Her horns swept back in elegant curves, scales like polished obsidian traced with faint gold lines. Wings folded neatly along her back, even in rest. One clawed hand rested inches from his chest. Not gripping, not threatening. Her breathing was slow, controlled, as if she trusted the space, as if she trusted him. Aaron's heart hammered painfully. Every instinct screamed danger. Yet he did not feel fear, because between them, nestled against his torn side, the dragon child slept peacefully, curled with absolute trust. The woman's eyes opened, gold irises locking onto his. Sharp, intelligent, ancient. She did not roar. She did not strike. She spoke softly, voice like low thunder restrained by discipline. Human, you should not be alive. Aaron swallowed, throat raw. He forced the words out. She is safe, that's all that matters. The dragon woman studied him for a long moment. Then slowly, she inclined her head. You took 12 blasts meant for extinction, she said. For a child not of your kind. Her gaze softened just slightly, and the world shifted. Because in that moment, Aaron realized the truth. He had not been captured. He had been carried. And the war had just changed. Aaron woke again to pain that felt organized, deliberate, contained rather than wild. It wrapped his body like tight bindings instead of tearing through it. Every breath burned, but it did not collapse him. He lay still, eyes half open, listening. The chamber around him breathed with a low hum, ancient stone, warmed by hidden fire veins. The scent in the air was unfamiliar, mineral and smoke, and something sharp like rain on hot metal. He was not restrained. That fact registered slowly, cautiously. His arms were bandaged in layered cloth etched with glowing runes. His chest was wrapped, his side supported by firm padding that pulsed faintly with warmth. Dragon healing. He knew enough legends to recognize it. The child stirred before he did. A soft sound, a questioning chirr. Aaron's heart lurched painfully as he shifted his gaze downward. She was there, curled against him, tail tucked close, wings folded clumsily like a blanket she had not learned to use yet. Her scales glowed dimly, ember-bright beneath soot and scratches. She was alive. Relief hit him harder than any blast. His vision blurred. He closed his eyes briefly, just long enough to steady himself. "You may look at her as much as you wish," a voice said from the far side of the chamber. "But do not try to sit up." Aaron turned his head slowly, muscles protesting. The dragon woman stood near a carved pillar, arms crossed, wings partially unfurled in a posture that was neither relaxed nor hostile. In the light, he could see her more clearly now. She was taller than him even standing still, her form built for power rather than grace, yet she carried both. Her scales were darker than the child's, deep obsidian marked with natural gold veining that pulsed faintly with each breath. Her eyes never left him. "If you move too quickly, you will reopen injuries that should have killed you already." She continued, voice calm, controlled. "I would prefer not to repeat the process." Aaron swallowed. "Where am I?" "You are beneath the ash spire," she replied. "In a sanctuary warded against cannon fire and political lies." That last word landed heavier than the rest. He studied her carefully. "You're elate." "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Then why am I not dead?" A pause, long enough to matter. "Because my daughter would not release you," she said. The words hit him like a quiet avalanche. "Daughter." The child shifted again, small claws tightening reflexively in his shirt. Aaron instinctively adjusted his arm to support her head, despite the pain. "Your daughter," he echoed. The dragon woman stepped closer, her footsteps deliberate, each one sending a faint vibration through the stone. She stopped at the edge of the platform where he lay, looking down at both of them. "Her name is Sailthra," she said. "She is of my blood, of my fire, and of a lineage the conclave tried to erase last night." Aaron's jaw tightened. "They fired on civilians. They fired on dissent." The woman corrected. "The broodship carried children whose parents would not kneel." Aaron exhaled slowly, carefully. "And you let them?" "No," she said, eyes narrowing. "I arrived too late." Silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken loss. "You took 12 blasts," she continued quietly. "Do you understand what that means, human?" Aaron considered the question, then shook his head slightly. "I understand that she's alive." A low sound escaped her, not quite a laugh, not quite a growl. 12 elder cannons are calibrated to annihilate armored drakes. Your species shatters under one. Then maybe your weapons need adjusting." Aaron said hoarsely. For the first time, her expression shifted. Not anger. Interest. She reached out, slowly, deliberately, giving him time to object. When he did not, her clawed fingers hovered over the bandages at his side. "Your bones were fractured, organs ruptured, nervous system partially burned," she said, voice clinical now. "You should have died before the 5th blast." "But I didn't," Aaron replied. "No," she agreed. "You did not." Her gaze dropped to Sailthra. "She would not release you when we pulled you from the ruins." She bit 3 healers and scorched 1. Aaron blinked. "She did what?" The dragon woman's lips curved slightly. "She has good instincts." A flicker of warmth passed through his chest at that. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You caused a fracture," she corrected. "One the conclave cannot ignore." Aaron frowned. I'm not a symbol. You are now, she said simply. She straightened, wings folding closer to her back. The elders will demand your execution. They will call you a spy, a manipulator, a thief of dragon blood. I didn't steal her, Aaron said quietly. I carried her. Yes, the woman said. And that distinction terrifies them. He looked up at her, meeting her gaze despite every instinct telling him not to challenge an elite. What's your name? Another pause, shorter this time. Veilrix, she said, commander of the 3rd Ash Wing. Aaron let out a breath. So what happens now, Commander? Veilrix studied him for a long moment. Outside this chamber, the city is deciding whether you are an abomination or a miracle. Inside it, you are recovering. And after that, she said slowly, you will stand before the conclave. Aaron's grip tightened slightly around Sailthra as she stirred. And if they decide to kill me? Veilrix's eyes hardened, gold flaring briefly. Then they will have to decide whether tradition is worth civil war. The air seemed to vibrate with restrained power. Aaron believed her. Why help me? He asked. Veilrix looked down at her daughter, then back at him. Because my child learned the meaning of safety in your arms. And because no empire survives long after it teaches its children that mercy is weakness. Sailthra yawned, a tiny puff of harmless sparks drifting into the air. She shifted closer to Aaron, pressing her forehead against his chest. Veilrix watched the gesture closely. Something unreadable passed across her face. Rest, human, she said, turning away. You will need strength for what comes next. As she moved toward the chamber exit, she paused without looking back. And Aaron, she added, if the conclave asks why you lived. He waited. Tell them the truth. Veilrix said, that you refused to let a child die alone. The chamber doors sealed with a low rumble, leaving Aaron alone with the soft warmth of a dragon child and the growing certainty that survival had been the smallest part of what he had done. Recovery was not rest. It was endurance without movement. Hours blurred together beneath the ash spire as Aaron drifted between shallow sleep and waking pain. Dragon healing was efficient, ruthless. It rebuilt what could be rebuilt and ignored comfort entirely. Each pulse of warmth through the runes stitched bone to bone and nerve to nerve. Sailthra rarely left him. When healers approached, she watched with narrowed eyes, sparks dancing along her small horns. When they retreated, she curled against Aaron again, soot-smudged snout tucked beneath his chin. He learned her sounds before her words. The soft chirr of curiosity. The sharp hiss of warning. The low purr-like hum she made when she slept. On the 3rd day, Veilrix returned. She did not announce herself. The air itself seemed to tense as she entered. Aaron opened his eyes as her shadow fell across the platform. You look worse than before, he said hoarsely. Veilrix's jaw tightened. The conclave convenes at dawn. She replied. That bird. Worse, she said. They have declared you an anomaly. Aaron shifted carefully, ignoring the protest from his ribs. That sounds almost flattering. It is not, Veilrix said. Anomalies are erased. Sailthra lifted her head at the sound of her mother's voice, a soft chirp escaping her. Veilrix knelt without hesitation, pressing her forehead gently to her daughter. You should not bond so quickly, little flame, she murmured. Sailthra responded by climbing partially onto Aaron's chest, tail flicking possessively. Veilrix froze, eyes narrowing. Aaron held still, barely breathing. She's just tired. I have seen war bonds form slower than this. Veilrix said quietly. That can't be good. It is complicated. She replied, rising again. The healers say you will be able to stand by dawn. Not walk well, not fight, but stand. That is all the conclave requires. Aaron absorbed that. And if I refuse, then they will come here. Veilrix said. And that will end poorly for everyone. A distant rumble echoed through the stone. Aaron suspected it was not thunder. What do they want from me? He asked. They want to know why a human body did not fail. Why you shielded dragon blood with your own. Why my daughter now treats you as kin. Kin, Aaron repeated softly. Veilrix's gaze sharpened. Do not misunderstand. You are not family. Her words were firm. Her eyes betrayed uncertainty. Then what am I? You are a question, she said. And dragons dislike unanswered ones. That night Aaron dreamed. Not of fire, but of falling. He stood beneath a sky filled with wings, thousands of them. Dragons of every scale and shape circled above a shattered city. In his arms Saelthra slept, warm and impossibly heavy. Her weight anchored him to the ground, even as the world trembled. A voice echoed through the sky, ancient and cold. Release the weakness. Aaron looked up and answered without hesitation. No. He woke gasping, heart racing. Saelthra pressed against his chest, awake and alert. Tiny flames flickered instinctively along her scales. Easy little spark. He whispered. It's just me. She relaxed gradually, then licked his chin with a rough, warm tongue. Aaron huffed a weak laugh despite himself. At dawn, they came for him. 6 elder drakes in ceremonial armor entered the chamber. Their presence crushed the air, making breathing feel like work. Veilrix stood at the head of the platform, wings flared slightly. Her stance was formal, controlled. Aaron pushed himself upright with trembling arms. Every inch screamed in protest. But he stood. Saelthra clung to him, refusing to be handed off. Murmurs rippled through the elders at the sight. One stepped forward, scales pale with age, eyes burning like coals banked for centuries. Human, it intoned. You stand accused of interfering in dragon affairs. Aaron swallowed. I saved a child. You disrupted an execution authorized by the conclave. Another elder hissed. Aaron met their gazes one by one. It wasn't an execution. It was slaughter. A dangerous silence followed. Veilrix did not move. But the heat in the room rose sharply. Why did you shield dragon blood with your own? The first elder demanded. Aaron looked down at Saelthra, then back up. Because she was small. Because she was alone. Because no one else stopped it. The elders exchanged glances. You claim no ulterior motive. I didn't know who she was. Aaron said. I still don't care. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. The eldest elder leaned closer, studying him. Your body should have failed. Why did it not? Aaron hesitated, then answered honestly. Because if I dropped her, she would have died. And that thought was heavier than the pain. Silence fell again, deeper this time. Saelthra lifted her head and released a tiny, defiant puff of flame into the air. It dissipated harmlessly, but its meaning was clear. The conclave chamber doors opened beyond the healer's hall. A vast space waited, filled with watching eyes and restrained fire. Veilrix stepped forward at last, voice ringing with authority. The human will speak before the full conclave, and my daughter will remain with him. Gasps echoed. Objections rose. Varix's wings flared fully, heat rolling off her in a visible wave. This is not a request. The elders withdrew slowly, tension unresolved. Valrix turned to Aaron, her voice low. Once you enter that chamber, there is no protection but truth. Aaron nodded. That's all I have. She studied him, then reached out and adjusted his stance, steadying him with one firm clawed hand. Stand tall, human. She said quietly, you carry more than you know. As the doors to the conclave began to open, Aaron felt the full weight of dragonfire not on his skin, but on his soul. And he stepped forward anyway.